Good morning, still, Unit 6, and welcome to the National Finals Day 2. We're looking forward to a great conversation. Let's end with a bang, shall we? Let's end this morning session on a high note. My name is Tom Vance. I'm a professor of education at Kansas State University, and I've been hanging around We the People for 30 years.
Hey all, Sean Arthurs. I live just south of DC, history teacher and professor, and I know that this is your last one of the day, so hoping you can finish, and then hoping the UConn women can finish next year, right? I don't know if you all follow or not, but they got some superstars up there, and hopefully we get some superstars on this team as well.
My name is Luana Davis. I am a professor of law at Cumberland School of Law in Birmingham, Alabama, and welcome to the finals.
And why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves to us?
But before we introduce ourselves, I just wanted to make it known that I have a mild tic disorder, which can cause me to have a slight stutter when I speak. It might just take me a little longer to get my words out. I just wanted to make you all aware of it before we started.
Well, thanks for making us aware, and we understand.
I am Oliver Clacko, and we're from Staples High School in Westport, Connecticut.
Hello, I'm Ruby Coleman.
I'm Pluto Schneering.
Hi, my name is Jake Fitzpatrick, and this is our teacher, Mrs. Carmen.
Welcome all. We are working on question 2, which is President Dwight D. Eisenhower said, "We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. Do you agree or disagree? Why? What disagreements did the founders have about a standing army, and are they relevant today? To what extent should there be an international U.S. military presence?" You may begin.
As President Eisenhower feared, defense contractors have amassed undue influence, creating a military-industrial complex that ensures the expansion of America's military presence and defense spending through political engineering and lobbying, policies favorable to these companies, but harmful to American civilians and humanity overall.
Outlining anti-federalist concerns, Brutus wrote that a standing army would subvert liberty and divert funds from more worthy causes. However, Shays' rebellion convinced Federalists that a standing army was necessary. Acknowledging anti-federalist concerns, the framers incorporated checks into the Constitution to ensure that the army not be used for tyranny. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 12 demands a constant review of military posture by prohibiting the appropriation of funds to the military for a period longer than 2 years. The balance of control between the legislative and executive branches ensures that thoughtful deliberation guides military actions. While the price of maintaining a peacetime army remains objectionable, concerns of tyranny have subsided as the army is no longer used regularly for domestic law enforcement.
Since the Cold War, American foreign policy focused on maintaining a military hegemony, which has succeeded in protecting and enriching America and its allies. Yet this posture has persisted without any substantial modernization, resulting in an overly militaristic, costly, and amoral global military presence. America should maintain an international military presence to the extent that it protects national security without sacrificing its commitment to promote democracy and human rights. This means maintaining a military presence near allies and economically vital regions, while diverting efforts towards defense modernization, closing redundant bases, and curtailing military and armament aid to immoral regimes. Unfortunately, the influence of the military-industrial complex limits the likelihood of these necessary changes.
The emergence of modern threats has rendered America's militaristic posture obsolete. While America's foes routinely execute cyber attacks and disinformation campaigns against the United States, America's anachronistic emphasis on traditional military practice has inhibited the building of robust cybersecurity protections. A 2020 study by research organization Comparitech ranked the US 17th in cybersecurity. Even where America rightly maintains a large footprint, resources should be better allocated towards diplomatic efforts. America spends 20 times more on its military than on diplomacy, and expects its military to fix political conflicts. The US must prioritize diplomacy and modern defense measures rather than relying on traditional capabilities. Yet the decrease in revenue defense contractors would experience from such a transition incentivizes their opposition, inhibiting modernization.
Maintaining America's international military presence is tremendously costly. The RAND Corporation has found annual costs of up to $200 million per overseas base and approximately $40,000 per troop stationed internationally. Terminating redundancies in America's military posture would provide considerable savings. A scenario proposed by RAND, focused on cutting troop levels and bases in Europe and the Middle East, promises $3 billion in annual savings without jettisoning any of America's national security objectives. However, reductive proposals are unlikely to materialize due to the military-industrial complex's influence. Since 2009, defense contractors have made $385 billion from overseas bases, and closures would entail cuts to this revenue.
America's amoral pursuit of hegemony has forced complicity with crimes against humanity. In Yemen, America's desire to maintain strong relations with Saudi Arabia and profit from arms sales to the region has contributed to the ongoing humanitarian crisis. Focusing on national security need not contradict America's mission to protect democracy and human rights. Therefore, the U.S. must threaten to curtail military agreements to confront human rights violations in states like Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Additionally, the amorality with which Congress authorizes arms sales must be corrected by requiring affirmative votes and approval of sales rather than a veto-proof majority and objection. Again, the potential losses for defense contractors makes these changes unlikely. The military-industrial complex prevents necessary changes to America's foreign policy, proving Eisenhower's fears of misplaced power prophetic. Thank you, and we are now ready for questioning.
That nicely done, y'all. You got it right in there at the wire. So about 12 miles from where I live, the White House, the White House is located 12 miles from where I live, and there's a little park just north of there, Lafayette Square. This past summer, President Trump cleared protesters from that park. And then the lead general, the head general on the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, appeared in a photograph with President Trump in that square. Should this general have appeared in the photograph with President Trump in Lafayette Square after clearing protesters this past summer?
I think that the answer is no, he should not have appeared with President Trump. I think that an important aspect of this is, first of all, the civilian control of the military. So the National Guard is effectively a domestic military, a domestic army. And so if we see generals, the general appearing with Donald Trump made it appear as though he could have been influential in the decision to send the National Guard there and clear the protesters, which is important in which shows that there's not a civilian control of the military to the extent that there should be, and that Donald Trump, a civilian, should have really made this decision all by himself, which we don't know if that's true or not, but it's just important to consider.
Furthermore, removing the American public from this park in order to stage a photo op just decreases the voice of the people. It shows that the people don't really have as much power as we'd like to think, and shows how strong the executive branch is in controlling the military and in controlling the narrative surrounding the military.
Okay, so are there any situations then when the head of the military can say no to the commander-in-chief? So are there situations, and not just you can think about last summer, or you can think more broadly, when should somebody say, or when should the military say no, if ever, to the commander-in-chief? Are there any circumstances?
We believe there are circumstances where someone should be able to say no. For example, again, if the president is doing something that severely is antithetical to promoting human rights and democracy. However, there just aren't enough checks on the president's power, especially with the authorization of use of military force and the War Powers Resolution. There needs to be more checks on the president's power and more thoughtful deliberation being guided into all military actions.
I would agree with that statement. Also, there should be more checks on the president's power, and also there should be there should be more checks on the president's power, and there should also be legislation that if a president orders something that is unconstitutional and goes against human rights, that there should be some veto power by military officials.
So how could we, oh, sorry, go ahead, Jacob.
The president can effectively drive us to war whenever he wants. He has access to the nuclear football. And as exemplified by the bombing of Soleimani like 2 years ago, there are not enough checks on the president, and the generals are not really able to control that. They should be able to have some influence on it, but it's really up to the president as he is the commander in chief.
Okay, so I think we're getting somewhere here. So what kinds of checks could you envision? What kinds of things could we do? You've made a clear stance. The president has too much authority here, too much war-making authority. That's not the way we drew it up. So what can we do?
Well, in theory, only Congress can actually declare war. So generally speaking, constitutionally, there is no way for the president to declare war and go into another country. But the framers didn't make it unconstitutional for us to invade another country without declaring war. So there should be a check that makes it so that no military action can be enacted without the approval of Congress.
And I think the blame isn't entirely on the president. I think the blame is on Congress too. We've seen with Congress's lackadaisical enforcement of the War Powers Resolution, Congress is really trying to just not really have any say over war. They don't want to deal with it, despite the non-delegation doctrine. And Congress needs to take a more effective role in our foreign policy.
Speaking of people taking an effective role in policy, I'm interested in you guys' position about the Space Force and the military. Who is it that we are protecting ourselves against in space? And do you think that this is based on security or based on increasing scientific research and discovery? If you think it's the latter, why do we need the military as opposed to NASA?
Well, we've seen in the past, especially during Ronald Reagan's term, that there's been a lot of research into space-based military forces, like the Star Wars program and things of that nature. But it's very clear that there's no one up there that we are currently fighting. So our group would believe that is a misuse of funding, as it could be going towards more productive things. And we believe that the military's budget is already overblown in that regard.
The Space Force was not meant for security, but rather security theater. There are no enemies in space. You're not fighting anyone in space. And by increasing our budget, we are inherently just giving more money to the military industrial complex. There is no purpose besides what seems like publicity to create a Space Force.
What are the best safeguards against what Eisenhower was worried about, against this rising military industrial complex? What are the best safeguards against that going out of control?
While it does seem extreme, nationalizing our arms industry would be the most complete solution to stopping the military industrial complex, because it removes the main incentive behind the military industrial complex, which is private profit.
And while that is extreme and unlikely to materialize soon, there are more smaller steps in comparison to that, but are still big, that we could take to curb the power of the military industrial complex, such as shutting the revolving door between lobbyists and Pentagon, so there's no conflict of interest, so lobbyists can't go and benefit their former bosses.
Time.
Well, I'm sorry, Ruby, we're out of time. Great job, Unit 6. I mean, this is a really great conversation. Just such a intelligent, thoughtful set of responses to some really difficult questions. Welcome to day 2 of the national finals. I mean, we challenge you. You 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 said and made some arguments that I don't know that we heard the totality of arguments in other groups so far today. I mean, it seems like you had, and to get to the level of detail that you did in response to, I think, in my opinion, nearly all of our questions suggests a really uh, awesome, a great deal of preparation, but then also beyond just kind of knowing the landscape, you've obviously thought about that landscape and how the pieces fit together and that kind of thing, which is super impressive. And so I was really impressed with your performance. I would like to tell you something to do better. But at this point, I would be making something up. So that's not good to do as a teacher. You don't just make things up to students. So I'm just going to stop there and allow my colleagues to um, give you their feedback.
Thanks, team. I really enjoyed it. And I know this issue is also pretty relevant in Connecticut as well, right? I mean, you've got a couple of big, some big submarine bases, a lot of income and a lot of jobs going on up in that area. I appreciated your mention of cybersecurity. Wish we had a lot longer to talk, to be honest, because I know the phrase amoral came up several times, and I would have loved to have dug into the morals and when is it justified and have gotten a little bit deeper on this with you. But just want to thank you all for your time, and I hope you get to enjoy the rest of your day. I don't know if it's snowing in Connecticut. I know the Northeast is getting some weird weather these last couple of weeks. But hope you get to enjoy the rest of your day. And thanks for sharing and coming to nationals.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for participating. I thought your historical knowledge was quite good, and you had strong positions and you're willing to defend them, and that's what this is all about. And so congratulations on making it to the finals, and good luck going forward.
And
Okay.
just real quick, thank you to Ms. Cameraman for bringing you to the finals and providing this experience, this memory. You're making memories this weekend for your students. So thank you very much.